on page 3, you're going to see a picture of this troll-looking guy. This guy, and I don't know if you saw when you walked in, all the Emmys and all that stuff, they all belong to this guy. This guy's Charlie Button. He invented the intercom. He made the very first, it was a metal box back then. And actually it started out as a printed circuit board that he stapled to a 2x4. He was the front of house guy for Eric Clapton when Cream, or what was it, the Yardbirds that he was with? Not the Yardbirds. Was it the Yardbirds? Yeah. When they would come to the United States, their writer in their contract said he had to be their audio guy. And I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to talk a little bit about the pedigree of Clearcom. Eric Clapton came to the United States with the Yardbirds with a Marshall amplifier. That Marshall amplifier in those days, everybody knows what a Marshall amplifier is? Yeah, pretty much. Oh, Katie, come on. You're going to have to get out more. So it's a pretty rock and roll ubiquitous. You go to a concert and you see, like, you know, all these guys on stage with the smoke and all this stuff, and they got stacks of amplifiers behind them. Most of them are Marshall amplifiers. It's a British company. The Marshall, you ever heard of Fender? Not on a car, but an amplifier. So the first, what Eric Clapton first brought with him was a Fender. It was a Marshall amplifier, which was a bad copy of a Fender Twin, and it was very underpowered. And he would stack them, and he had a roadie who stood behind because he would have to take his guitar and touch the body of the amplifier to get it to feed back. So Charlie's on the spectrum, you know. Charlie was, and he was a fiddler. He always was fiddling with stuff. He had a shop in New York, a repair shop, where the Rolling Stones came with their amplifier because they heard about what it was, and everybody who was anybody knew him. He was one of the midwives of rock and roll. Anyway, so Charlie looked at the amp and he saw, oh, if you ever met Charlie, he talks like this. I think there's 5 or 6 pins on the what is it, the 835B or whatever the tube is. We'll rewire that and do it. And he rewired it, and all Eric had to do now is turn his guitar towards the amplifier and it would feed back. It changed rock and roll. He took it immediately out on the tour. So Charlie said, no, not yet, I'm not done yet. I got to fix the rectifier. No, I got to take it out on tour. So very famous story in rock and roll parlance is Rusty the roadie, who used to be the guy who stood behind pushing the amplifier so it wouldn't fall over when he leaned back on. Now his job, until Charlie could totally finish, was shoving dry ice onto the amplifier so it wouldn't burn up during the tour. And this is Charlie Button. Charlie Button was in at the very beginning of rock and roll here in the Bay Area, working at the Avalon Ballroom. I don't know if most of you are too young to remember that. It was kind of like the Fillmore sort of a thing. And they started out, you know, rock and roll was pretty, it was folk music turned into rock and roll, and they had nice crowds. But then the psychedelic era came, and all of a sudden you had big crowds in the room. So when Charlie would mix the show, the front of house mixer, he needed to get information either to or from the monitor mixer or to the guys on stage. He would send like a PA with a note. Hey, can you turn up your EQ on this or whatever? Now you got thousands of stoned out zombie kids in the room, and you can't get the PA to walk back and forth. So he invented the belt pack intercom. And that's how Clearcom started. And it started out as this single channel box made out of metal. Another beer in a bar kind of story is it was a metal box. Now we make them out of composite material. But the lighting guys, nobody's a lighting guy here, right? So when I insult lighting guys, like this. Okay, so lighting guy, you know. I won't hold it too far against you. Anyway, so lighting guys, what they would do when they wanted to get that big, thick cable up to the truss, they would take the metal belt pack, plug in a short audio cable, tie some trick line to the audio cable, throw it over the truss. It was metal, it wouldn't break, it was rock solid. Boom, pull it, tie the cable to the trick line, boom, that's how they got everything up. Now the old 500 series, which I know you remember, the beige ones, made out of like ABS plastic. So the first 2 or 3 months that came out, our repair guys were finding all these coming back totally smashed, and nobody knew why until somebody went out on the gig and realized these are lighting guys, and what lighting guys do, they followed what they always did. It's an intercom. Doesn't make a difference if it's metal or something fragile. Bam, over the thing. So now we make them out of stuff that won't break. We have actually videos of cars driving over these things, or we have a research park in Montreal where they actually went out to the parking lot and played ice hockey with it. Got a video of that. Okay, so where's my tweaker? Anybody have a tweaker? I think I forgot mine. I'm gonna have to grab one. Okay, anyway, the reason I want to talk about Charlie is just to let you know the pedigree of ClearCom. ClearCom it's a rock and roll startup company, and even though we've been bought and sold a couple of different times by big corporate giants who, like, you know, worry about if you say fuck. Obviously, I don't pay attention to them. So
they just heard you.
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. I've got a kid and a sick wife. Please don't fire me. We still maintain that that pedigree of, you know, wacky rock and roll stuff. One of the things, and I don't know why I'm continuing to tell you this, but I will. One of the things that we struggled with when we were first bought by this big company was the company that owns this company called HME, Harry Miyahara Electronics. I'm sure you've all been to McDonald's or Burger King, and they got the little headset, and that's what they make. Harry Miyahara, the guy who started this company, invented the wireless microphone. The Mutiny on the Bounty was the first. As a matter of fact, that one is still in that case as you walk in. It's on the bottom shelf with the big giant dial. That's the one that was used on Mutiny on the Bounty. That was the first commercially available wireless microphone. The guy was very smart. But their company works with business people. Our company works with broadcast and theater people who are people like me, you know, kind of broken. And my theory is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe all of you too, most of the people who are in the tech part of our business, in live performance and broadcast, wanted to be musicians or actors at one point, and learned pretty quick that you could make a good living as a technician without the rejection, and it was fun, and you got to work with cool stuff, and it fed the other component that we had. But we're still just as broken as the musicians and the actors are. So in our company, most of the people who work here are people like me who resonate with the company. Our owners, HME, they work with business people, so they don't understand how we do our business, but we do our business. And they've, after 10 years, have figured out to let us do our thing. So I still have a job. There you go. Okay, enough of that. So I want to talk a little bit about what I call the basic building blocks of comms. All this is, everybody know what the word cybernetic means? Anybody?
Cybernetic has to do with robots and...
Not really, but that's kind of cool. I like that, very cool. Yeah, no, nothing to do with that, but keep trying. Frick Franklin. God, that nothing changes. The butterfly sneeze that turns into a monsoon. This turns to that, turns to that, turns to that. So all the crap that I'm telling you now, which probably I'm boring you to hell with, is leading towards something. So I want you to understand that that's going to happen. So on page 4, I talk about the building blocks of intercoms. So many of you here, several of you here, were around in the old days when we had the 802 systems in the trucks. It was all 12 party lines. You remember those? You remember those. That's how comms used to be. That's the intercom that Charlie Button. By the way, interesting article on the back. I just realized. Back in the 60s, he had designed Carlos Santana's sound system, and it's a nice article from Rolling Stone back there. Anyway, the party line, it's my son. I hope he's okay. Give me 1 second. Avia, kolbe seder?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know I saw the new people that have been getting into the apartments, and they're all yuppies.
Okay, great. I'm teaching a class. I can't talk.
I'm sorry.
En baya. Bye. Okay. Okay. Yeah, he's sorry. Not really. He's got Army Hebrew, which is mostly slang. Yeah. And he hasn't used it in a while, but that's one of the reasons why we try to keep it up. Right now, we are in what we call, this is an acoustic party line. I'm talking right now, and everybody hears me. Now, you could close your ears and not hear me, or at least muffle me. But while I talk, at the same time, Derek is going to talk, and you're going to hear the both of us. Okay, yeah, great. Way to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Why do audio guys say check 1, 2, check 1, 2?
Because on 3 you have to lift.
Exactly. Okay, very good. What was that?
Sibilance.
Sibilance. Yes, that actually is the reason, but I was asking the question, which meant it was a joke. So you'll figure that out over the course of time. Okay, so right now, everybody heard what I said, and at the same time, you're hearing Derek saying some other things too. Okay, that's a party line. When I was a little kid on Long Island, we had a phone that you would pick up, and it would ring in a bunch of houses, and whoever ended up picking up was the person you talked to. If you, God bless you, if you would jiggle the little on-hook doodad, it would get an operator, and then you could ask for a direct line. But it was a party line that everybody, so that's a party line. But a lot of comm stuff comes from telephony, okay? So this party line is the origins of intercoms, and all the wired belt packs that everybody uses are all recipients of that technology. It started out as 1 channel, then it became 2. Now we're going to talk a little bit later, and maybe later this afternoon, about a digital party line, which has 12 or 24 channels all on 1 cable, which is a whole different story. So party line devices have the intercom, and they have what we call parasitic power. Most everybody, Clearcom and RTS, what you're used to working with, like the BP325s, are using 30 volts of DC. And it could be a little bit less, not a little bit more. I think you can go down to about 18 volts and still power one of these things. I remember me and Tom Mecklin used to do this thing where we'd take 2 9-volt batteries and series them together to be able to power up that. Okay, what you don't have is termination. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, okay? I know some of this is geeky, but I think it's cool for you to understand the theory behind what's going on with your intercoms, okay? So, and this is an opportunity to learn that kind of stuff. One of the most important things we need to learn in comms is the difference between 4-wire and 2-wire. Anybody want to take a stab at that here? No. Yes.
4-wire is 2 wires sending and 2 wires receiving. So you've got one path for outbound and one path for inbound.
Yeah.
2-wire combines both the incoming and outgoing. On the
Exactly.
same
Very good, Mark. That's right. So a lot of matrix-based products or base station-based products, you know, we have bunches, the other guys have bunches, inside are using 4-wire, but they need to translate to 2-wire so they can connect to these wired belt packs. So another way to explain it is on an XLR cable, everybody knows what XLR cable, right? Yeah, of course you do. And how many wires are in there? 3. But we're using this for 2-wire. How weird is that? Yeah. So in regular audio, which by the way happens to be half of 4-wire, that'll make sense in a little bit. We have a twisted pair of wires and a ground drain. That's our 3 wires inside, right? 1, 2, 3. Actually, it's 1, 2, and 3. Right. On these kind of intercom things, what we're doing typically is we take the voltage on one of the pins, sometimes 2 of the pins, and we use the ground is your common, and pin, if it's a single channel belt pack, pin 3 would be your audio, and in RTS we can use pin 2 and 3 for audio. Okay, so why is that important? Let's take a 4-wire circuit. Okay, I've got the twisted pair in there, forget about the ground drain. That's 2 wires. Okay, I'm going to Sarah. I got a microphone. It just so happens I have to bring it to line level, but just let's say I have a microphone coming on those 2 wires, okay? You have an amplifier in your room. You can hear me, okay? That's half of a 4-wire circuit, referring to what I just said about the audio being 4-wire. You've got a microphone, and I've got an amplifier, okay? I can hear you. I can turn the volume up or down. You can turn my volume that you're hearing up or down. If I have a line amplifier, which would bring it to line level, I can put some gain in or attenuate some gain up from me to you. That's the 4-wire circuit. It's the simplest kind of audio circuit that we have. Very simple. However, all right, Sarah's talking to me. Now, Derek wants to listen because, you know, he's an A1, he's a control freak. He wants to hear what's going on. So, because it's 4-wire, well, you can say, well, I could just take a Y cord. Not really, it's not kosher. I need a distribution amplifier from your microphone, which is now amplified to, what does the word microphone mean, by the way? Did anybody take Latin in school? Well, not a tiny phone, but very good. Tiny sound. Phone is sound. A microphone, okay, again, I'm sorry. One of the reasons why I was kind of a pretty good A1 is I have serious ADHD and I go all over the place, okay? So I could listen to 7 channels of audio and be able to mix and still be able to smoke a cigarette out of the side of the truck while I'm doing it. And I'm going to go all over the place with our little lessons today. Microphone. What is a microphone? Microphone has a diaphragm, right? There's a little piece of like a film, and there are 2 little wires that are connected to it, and it moves up and down with the compression and rarefaction of the audio field, okay? So okay, everybody, I know it's COVID, but take your mask down and say Popeye with 2 fingers right in front of your mouth. Popeye, Popeye, Popeye. You feel that? Okay, mask up. All right, thank you. Okay, the Popeye thing is cool for a couple of different things. It just showed you that there is sound pressure that you can actually feel. A microphone is feeling that, but not only the thing that our fingers can feel, it can sense what our tympanum can feel in our ear. all the really minute, tiny little movements. So the microphone is feeling the same thing. By the way, the Popeye trick, very important. I remember doing this with, God rest his soul, he just passed away, I think everybody knows Ray Fossey. Ray used to wear his mic out like this. And then every once in a while, when I, give him a hard time, he'd do this. So one time I went in and I said, Ray, put your fingers in front of your mouth and do the Popeye thing. Okay, Popeye, 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 Popeye. Now, slowly move it to the side of your lips, to the corner of your mouth. Popeye, Popeye, Popeye. You feel where you don't feel the Popeye anymore? That's the spot you want to put your microphone. And that's a great training tool for us when you're in a booth with somebody using a headset. Yeah? So they don't get explosive transient pee-popping. Which sounds like they ate some bad, Taco Bell, but that's different. Anyway, go back to microphones, okay? I have my diaphragm. I have the 2 wires in there. Every microphone is like this except for electrets, and we'll get to that in a second. Those 2 wires are connected to a coil, and that coil is going around a magnet. So the diaphragm on top is moving, analogous in an analog to the compression and rarefaction, or the movement in and out of the sound in the sound field. As it moves up and down, the wires move up and down. And there's a magnet in there, okay? That's creating a what? Anybody? An electromagnetic field. Very close. Voltage is involved, okay? So that's, I know it looks dirty, but this is what's happening, okay? So now, that electromagnetic field is now something that wires can take into an amplifier, because it's what? It's a microphone, which means it's tiny sound, tiny sound. And in order for me to do anything with it, like take it into Sarah's amplifier, most amplifiers want to see what kind of, not a mic level, but a line level. Line level is typically about at least 70 dB above mic level. Each dB, each decibel, is an order of magnitude more than the last. So it's not just like a little bit more, it's a whole lot more. 70 dB is gigantic change, okay? So I've amplified that, right? That's the microphone. Now it goes into the amplifier. Now it's going to go into a speaker. What is a speaker? I'll give you a hint. I'll use the word transducer. What is the speaker? Come on. Very good, very good. A speaker is taking that electromagnetic information. It passes through they call it a voice coil. It's the same sort of thing we have in the dynamic microphone, where I have this coil. It's taking that energy, which is making the wires move around the magnet, which the magnet actually is making the wires move around the magnet. And that goes up to a piece of paper, which is a speaker, which is moving back and forth, but it's pretty big. And it's moving the air so that our ears can now do the same thing that the microphone did, except doing it neurologically instead of doing it electromagnetically. All right? Again, geeking out a little bit here, but this is important stuff for audio people, even camera people, okay, who are cool enough to appreciate audio stuff. Okay, all right. So transducer is a word we use that can be either a microphone or a speaker. Obviously, there's another kind of microphone, which is a electret microphone. Okay. Electret microphones, instead of having that diaphragm, they have these little wafers with a positive and a negative charge. And they move, but send it to an FET instead of a coil. It's a different kind. But interestingly, they are what? They are about 15 dB louder. right? So they have a little bit more information, but they're electret. So they have voltage, which has to be dried out before it goes to the next step. Yes, sir?
Do, on ClearCom headsets, are they dynamic?
Dynamic.
They're all dynamic.
We make some that are electret, but they're more for the DX product, which is the stuff that we use for the, what do you call it? The HME stuff. The
Oh, stuff for the McDonald's guys.
yeah. Sorry, I got to sit down. I had an interesting weekend, which I'm not going to tell you about. Yes. Ah, okay. Very different microphone completely. And the interesting thing about carbon microphones is I don't have a fucking clue how they work. And I'm sorry. I should. There was a time when carbon microphones were very ubiquitous in comms, and I don't know how they work. Apparently they use carbon. I don't know anything else about the carbon microphones. Okay. Okay, good. So we understand the difference between 4-wire and 2-wire. Now here's the thing. 4-wire, very simple circuit, the simplest audio circuit. 2-wire, complicated, because I'm taking the input and the output and putting it on the same 2 wires. They're not discrete anymore. What does that mean? The input and the output might hear each other, which would cause crosstalk, echo, right? Also, it also might induce some hum because of just the inductions part of the circuit. They are unbalanced. 4-wire is balanced, 2-wire is unbalanced. Okay. Now, there is a company called Telex, which makes a product called Audiocom, which we rarely see anymore. I think I've seen it, like I said, at NASA a few times. But they're kind of end of life, which uses a 2-wire balanced audio system. But it's very uncommon. Okay? Yes? Is it? Interesting. Telex, which is the same company, they're all owned by Bosch, and that's the company that owns RTS, which makes like the BP325 that you're all used to, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. The what? AZ Edit. That's for 4-wire stuff. Okay, we're talking 2-wire now. Okay. No, RTS is, I think it was Radio Television Services or something. It was the name of a company that made one of the first very successful 4-wire matrix products called McCurdy. Then they were bought by Telex. That was bought by Bosch. This one? Yeah. So, okay, very interesting. This box has some dip switches inside that I'll show you later on, where you can change it to the RTS. So let me take a second no, this is important, to explain the difference between the RTS protocol and the ClearCom protocol. So Charlie Button, you know, our little troll who hasn't changed his clothing in 40 years, but is the most brilliant person I've ever met. Still works every day with ClearCom, redesigned all this stuff and the digital party line stuff and all some of the new 5 gigahertz wireless stuff. 84 years old, 83. Yep. Charlie, kind of a purist. And his concept of the belt pack was single channel only. I've got 3 wires. Pin 1 is common, right? Pin 2 is 30 volts. Well, like that to you, like this to me, that to you. 30 volts of DC. And pin 3 is the audio plus. Okay, so pin 1 and 3, not the twisted pair like in 4-wire audio, but pin 1 and 3 is my audio duplex audio. Here's where it gets interesting. Remember, 4-wire, simple, easy. 2-wire, complicated, right? Why is it complicated? I've got my input and output on the same wires, and I have to figure out a way to kind of spray Teflon on them so that they don't hear each other. Otherwise, it's going to be echo, 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 echo. I don't know any of you remember in the old days when you'd pick up your phone and dial a number and you'd hear horrible echo, you'd hang up, dial the same number to be fine. I don't know if any of you have experienced that. Us old gummers had that all the time, okay? So what was happening was you made a call, and it so happened that your call clicked over to a line at the company office at Pac Bell or whatever they were called that was not properly nulled. We call it nulling. In the world of telephony, they call it echo cancellation. Okay? Did you mean to do that, or was that just, wow, that was interesting. You can probably hit the little doodad on the bottom if you want to be a big boy again. Okay, so that's cool. I was entertained. So when you hang up and dial again, you happen to pick up another line that was nulled properly or echo canceled properly. So the way I describe it for audio people, which most of you are, and I'll give you a pass, Joe. You used to be an A2 back in the day. You never A2'd? That's true. Oh, certainly. Oh, well, okay, then you got a pass. Okay. I thought I remembered you A2ing back like when oh, God. Oh, that was it. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, it's still, frequency. That's the F part. So, where was I?
You were talking about 2 to 4 wires.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Telephony.
Yeah, telephony. So, the way I explain it to audio people is, you know how you put something out of phase and you don't hear it anymore? I have 2 signals. I started out on radio, but I spent a lot of my early career in recording studios. And when we didn't like the chick singer who was like giving us a hard time because it never sounded good enough to her, and it's not just the chick singer, but I've used that. It's probably misogynistic for me to use that, so I should back up. The singer. And a lot of vocalists are prima donnas, okay? What we would do is we would take the singer's vocal and put it out of phase in a stereo thing. So it sounded great when it was in the studio, but when they took it home in those days, most of them had mono systems at home. And their voice in mono, what would happen if a stereo signal is out of phase? Phase cancellation, which means no singer. It's just a soundtrack with the music, which could be cool, but yeah, we were. It was different day, different drugs. It was a different time. Anyway, you're going to start recording me now and send me to HR. I can see what's going on. Yeah. So putting a comms channel, nulling it. Effectively, it's kind of like that. I'm taking my output and input and putting them kind of, it's not really, but you can think of it as putting them out of phase with each other so they don't hear each other. So my input and output are discrete from each other. Really what we're doing is we're making, and this is Charlie Button's invention, which was so brilliant back in the day, was we're taking 3 parameters, induction, capacitance, and resistance, which seem to be the same things, but they're not electronically really. And we're tweaking them so that we minimize the interaction between the 2 signals from each other, okay? That sounds kind of complicated. I could show you how it's done. maybe this afternoon we'll do something like that. But in modern equipment, you just push a button and it does it for you.
But how does ClearCom and RTS differ?
In nulling,
Yeah,
no, same thing.
same thing.
The nulling part is the same. ClearCom and RTS two-wired protocols differ in two things. One is, again, Charlie being the purist that he was, back in the day when he was doing this in the 60s, when he invented this stuff, the mults that they were using were typically pieces of junk. And so there was, yeah, do you want to say something?
I was going to ask, so basically then RTS capability within a ClearCom is in case you happen to have balanced two-wire on the show, and you have to...
No, not forget about balanced. None of these work with balanced. RTS is not balanced. Telex AudioCom is a whole separate product line. RTS that you're used to seeing on most of the trucks is unbalanced two-wire audio, just like ClearCom is.
So what is the purpose of RTS?
It happens to be in the TV trucks. So
So is it a protocol? It's a handshake? It's...
no, it's not really a handshake. This is really dumb analog audio stuff. There's no handshaking involved. This is like spitting in each other's face. There's no digital at all, period. It's only analog.
So all ClearCom is just analog?
No, all ClearCom two-wire. Not all ClearCom two-wire, but analog ClearCom two-wire is analog. We also make digital products that instead of, we have two channels, but you plug in an XLR that happens to have 12 channels on it, and I can select, oh, I want to be on the camera channel and the production channel, but now I want to be on the graphics channel. I can just digitally go into the menu, say, give me the graphics channel now, and now I have camera over graphics, right? Two of the channels that are populated with people I don't really care about. So, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I just say that to be a dick. It's a wonderful world. We all work together so well. Never mind. I'm a kidder. I kid. Well, to ourselves. To ourselves. No,
Okay, the camera channel does
it depends on the director. If the director will tolerate it. Yeah. In a ClearCom matrix, by the way, we have a way of, I explained to you how the party line works. We have something, it's a different kind of conference, it's called a fixed group, where the director can be talking to everybody, but if the cameraman wants to talk back, they're only talking to the director, not the other cameraman. Which I think is not a good idea, because there are some times where, hey, camera 5, hey, we're looking for the wife of the GOAT pitcher from 3 games ago. And camera 5 knows where that person is, but is not lined up really to get the best shot. So he or she can get on the camera PL and tell maybe camera 2 how to get that shot. Whereas in a fixed group, they'd have to relay it to the director, and then the director would have to tell it to the...
But if it's a theater and the director doesn't want to hear a lot of chatter, he just wants to give directions, then it's good.
In theater, they have a whole different way they work in theater. They have what's called private channels. So there'd be like, you don't have a lot of cameras in theater. You do a little bit more now than we used to, but let's say there's an audio channel, a lighting channel, and there's also audio private, lighting private, where they just talk amongst themselves, like what we in the trucks call a love channel. TD love, tape love, right? So, I mean, I'm kind of digressing a little bit here, but you follow what I'm saying? That there are ways to make all that stuff happen. So why did I, oh yeah, we were talking about two-wire and digital. This is all analog. There's nothing digital in this, other than the fact that you use your digital fingers to push the button.
But you're not using a DMX or a data pin? You're not using the 4 or 5 wire data pin?
3-pin XLR, or in the more modern ones, in the more modern HelixNet device, these are the ones that we just put out, and they have an XLR, but you can also put an Ethernet. It would have to be a PoE to power it up, right? But we'll get to that later.
But what's the different pin configuration on an XLR?
Okay, so let's talk about that. That's a good question, and very legitimate, because you're mostly using RTS in your world. There will come times when you're using ClearCom, absolutely. You should know that the initial offering of the ClearCom 2-wire belt pack didn't have a 3-pin XLR. It had a 6-pin XLR. Pin 1 was common for all channels. Pin 2 was, what's pin 2? 30 volts, right? Pin 3 was the plus for channel B. Pin 4 was the plus for channel A. And pin 5 and 6 was for a third listen-only program audio channel. So I could put, like, you know, announcers pre, or I could put the, you know, full program in there as a listen-only. But in
Nobody has 6-pin XLR.
theaters, a lot of theaters use it. Not in broadcast. Well, there are a couple of small stations that use that. So in my 3-pin XLR, okay, so in the ClearCom, 1 common, 2 voltage, 3 is your audio plus for a single channel belt pack. As I started to say earlier, Charlie, being a purist, which he totally is, and an audio geek, did not want to put voltage on the same pin as the audio. And that's why when you put on a single channel ClearCom belt pack, it's very, very quiet. You don't have what the RTS salespeople call the comfort tone, to know that the intercom is in fact plugged in, okay? Because what RTS does is 1 is still common, 2 is 30 volts, but it's also channel A audio plus. So 1 is common, which means it's audio minus, okay? Audio plus for channel A, and 3 could have voltage, depends upon what kind of power supply you're using. In the RTS world, if you're using like a PS31 or whatever they replaced it with now. Anybody know what the new 31 is?
Most of them are using studio technology stuff.
Okay, all right. So this is channel 2 plus and also 30 volts. That's when you get, but you could dry this out like we sometimes do for who? For a statistician, where we'd put 3 for stats and 15, which is audio program, right? So they can hear what the announcers are saying. In that case, you wouldn't have the 30 volts there. You'd just have the channel 2. But that's the RTS, which is what you need to know. Now, speaking of which, in your handouts, I don't know what page I put it on. Let me take a look. I think it's in the appendix somewhere. It's so hard to lick your fingers turning pages. No, it's not. Okay. So I need to make some more of these up because there are more of you than I thought there would be. And I will do that. But for now, share this 2x2. I'll make up more of these for you.
Well, I sent this out. I emailed
Oh, you
it to
did?
everybody.
Okay. Yep, okay. You need one of these? Video boy? Anybody else? Okay, so this is your belt pack. Now on the back here, that's the actual belt pack itself. In order for you to get into your belt pack, you want to remove only that bottom screw, right? Only the bottom screw. Why is that? because these two do nothing as far as taking the back plate off. I have a BP325 somewhere here. When we take a break, I'll go grab it and show you how to do that. And then what we've got here is a list of what the different pins, jumpers, and dip switches do. And here it shows you actually a picture of it. And if you take the back of the shell off by unscrewing that middle bottom screw, you take the back, you'll see this same thing is printed on the inside. And this shows you how to, Joe, do you need that, or you just check an email?
Both. Well, no, check an email, and I'm going to bring it up.
Okay.
Derek's email.
Okay. Well, there you go. You can look at that for now. Okay. I'll print up a couple more of these in a bit. Actually, it's noon, so we should be taking a break in a bit. This shows you how to do the different things you're going to do with this belt pack. You've got the 3 pins. You could have 2 channels. You could have 1 channel, right? You could send the same channel to both. If you have a 5-pin headset, you can do stereo listening, or really would be, in this case, split ear is the more correct term. So I could put my intercom in one ear and program audio in the other ear, right? Which is what you guys doing all the time. Or I could have 1 channel in one ear and 1 channel in the other ear. Why is that important? Intelligibility. We evolved. I'm not offending anybody when I say that word, as if I haven't offended everybody already. But we evolved stereoscopic hearing for a reason. When you heard the roar of a lion behind you and to the right, you knew you had to move forward and to the left to have the best chance to survive. The guys that didn't have that were, turned into cookies. Yeah. They didn't get to reproduce. Okay? So, we evolved this incredible thing, stereoscopic hearing, where our ear brain, and in the world of psychoacoustics, we call it an ear brain because the ear and the brain, in fact, are one organ when you're talking about comprehension. The ear brain makes it understandable in a much clearer way when we have separation. Okay? When you listen to stereo, you've got a left speaker and a right speaker, right? What you're doing, what your brain is doing is we're playing a trick with phase relationship to make that left and right. It's not like we're sending only some stuff here and only some stuff there. That's what we're doing with the headsets. That's called split speaker. But in the stereo world, we're actually making it in, they call it a pan pot on a mixer for panoramic potentiometer, right? That's how I move from here to here, a little bit there, but a lot there. Now, a little bit more over here and not quite so much over there. And now exactly the same, that's in the middle, right? That's in the middle, both things going to the same. That's a trick that we're playing on our ears, all right? The intelligibility that we have, so, okay, when Derek or Tom is in the, I don't know, who else A1's here? Occasionally, okay. Okay, Grant, you're sitting in your little cubby hole. By the way, what separates the A1 from the scum of the earth? 2 panes of glass. Okay. Oh, you do, that's true. Okay. Yeah. Some of them I can't tell. Or I won't, let's just say I won't. So you're sitting in your little room and you've got your KP32 sitting in front of you, your intercom panel, right? And your speakers, left, right. Maybe you're doing a surround show, who knows? But let's just say left, right. And so you've got all this information coming at you. To make your life easier, what we do is we take the director's hot mic, and that takes his or her voice and puts it into a speaker behind me to the left, let's say, or on top of me, so that now my ear brain is able to differentiate that. There's a concept in psychoacoustics called cocktail effect. In the stereo field, which we use in normal hearing, people who have, you know, normally hearing, not everybody has normal hearing, but most people do. When I'm talking, okay, we're having a conversation now, and everybody could be talking, right? Okay, everybody could be talking, but Katie is saying something that I want to hear. My ear brain has figured out how to focus on what she's saying and ignore Eric. Okay? I can do that in stereo. I cannot do it in mono. So when I'm listening to the speaker coming out of that KP panel, and I'm hearing Jim Lynch and Jeff Kuiper and the snake pit of the tape room, and God knows who else, the EIC, all that crap is coming out, and it's a cacophony. And whoever is loudest, I'll be able to really hear. But if everybody's talking at the same time, it's really, really, really hard for me to be able to, I mean, I got to think about it. And while I'm thinking about it, I just missed the fact that on Talkback, what's his name? Dwayne has bitched about the IFB being too quiet, and I'm about to get my ass reamed by the production people, right? Normally, I would fix it really quickly. But because it's all coming from one speaker, so when I spread it out, my ear brain now has the ability to be able to differentiate all those different things. This is why stereoscopic comms is starting to evolve now. More and more companies are starting to pay attention to it. And now as we move into things like, besides Dante, we have SMPTE 211030, we're going to talk about that later. Now we have the ability to be able to make all these many, many, many sources come. And all the companies are starting to pay attention to not just split ear, but stereoscopic hearing. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. Anyway, this piece of paper here is vital for you as an A2 when you're A2ing, or if you're an A1 and you want to admonish the A2 for not knowing how this works. This is very important. You want one of those? Okay. Who did not get one?
Admonish, we want to, not admonish, I think a better word would be to teach.
Yeah, yeah.
Admonishing, you're going to get them to shut down. But if you say, hey, you know, if you open up the back.
Derek, have I ever admonished somebody? Have I ever admonished anybody at A2?
Probably.
Really? I would be interested in hearing that. I think more teaching is the word. It's definitely the way to do it. But you've met me, right? And you've sat in this room for the last hour and 10 minutes, and you know what kind of a wacko dick I am when I'm talking like this? I'm just trying to be funny. It's really, it's one of my many shortcomings. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. I want to take about an 8 to 10 minute biological break, and then come back and we're going to start to talk about Freespeak. Before we do that, any questions about what we've talked about so far?
One over here, Ron.
Oh,
Just so you did the pins for the
RTS?
RTS. Can you do it for ClearCom?
Yeah.
Do a quick line.
Is that on the handout?
Is it on the handout?
Yeah, it is. It's okay. It's okay. I'll do it out here. It's okay.
Four.
So that's for a single channel belt pack. Now, against Charlie's better judgment, since RTS came out with the 2-channel system on a 3-pin XLR, everybody has 3-pin cable. 6-pin cable, not everybody has. And by the way, there's lots of different kinds of 6-pin cable. There's 6-pin cable that's designed for this. There's 6-pin cable that's designed for what's called a PIC, which is a program interrupt controller, which is used in IFBs for analog IFBs, which is wired completely differently. Everybody's got 3-pin XLR. So the product management people beat up Charlie until he designed a device called a TWC 701 is what it used to be. Now it's called the 703, which will emulate 2 channels. But we're not putting voltage on pin 3. We have 1 channel that gets it, okay? Now, in the ClearCom world, okay, let me backtrack a second. In theater, has anybody here ever worked in theater? Okay, you have. So you know about call signal on an intercom? Right, yeah. So I need to get Katie and her crew. So I push the little call button. We have them on RTS belt packs. Nobody ever uses them in TV. And then their people get to see a little light. We also make these flashes. The other people make flashes. We make things that vibrate. We make things that make bells and whistles and blah, blah, blah. Gets the attention of the people on that channel, okay? It's not used in sports broadcast TV, but it's very important for them. The ClearCom way of doing call signal is by putting 11 volts of DC onto pin 3, okay? It's 30 volts is hefty and it can cause a bit of a hum. 11 volts won't cause hum. But it's enough to wake up a little circuit in the belt pack that will make that light go off. And if we've programmed some of our fancier devices, it'll also make it vibrate, kind of like when your phone vibrates when you're getting a call, right? We do it with voltage. RTS does it with hypersonic sound. They take a 20,000 cycle tone and they put it on the channel. Because they're putting voltage on all these other pins, they couldn't do it with the voltage. The problem is, we were kind of, that's the word I'm looking for, snobby maybe? Well, you can, okay, so when we do the TWC 70, it's now 3, it used to be 1, we just changed it. We're taking voltage here, but audio here, and just audio here, right? But that means our call signal won't work on channel A. I'm sorry, yes, and by the way, we switched this to B for reasons passing any understanding in my book, but they did that for some reason. Okay, we can't put a call signal on it because there's already voltage there. So what we did is on these more modern belt packs, we have, and again after the break I'll show you, we have a bunch of dip switches in here which can change this belt pack to emulate a BP325. And there's one other thing I forgot to tell you about the delta. The delta in engineering terms means the difference between. The delta between the ClearCom and the RTS, besides the voltage, when Charlie, I started to tell this story before and then, as I often do, got diverted. When Charlie was first designing this belt pack, it was in the old days when the integrity of the molds was very questionable. So you might have broken shields, you might have cold solder joints, all kinds of stuff. So he said, I'm going to make the audio coming on the comms 15 dB below 0. So it's line level, but it's quiet line level. It's not mic level, but it's quiet line level to minimize the crosstalk in case there's some break in the wasn't foil in those days, it was a braided shield, right? So ClearCom RTS, hey Robert, is about 15 dB. Do you want to come in? No. Oh, okay. That's our president, Bob Foster. Thought he wanted to come in and give you all free ClearCom stuff, but oh well, that didn't happen, sorry. Oh yeah, very good, there you go. So the audio is quieter in Clearcom 2-wire than it is on RTS. So that's another piece of difference. Okay, it's just coming up to 20 after. Let's come back at the bottom of the hour, okay? Everybody knows where the bathrooms are? Okay. If you, for the guys, but for the girls, you're going to have to go out this way, where you came in, and it's about a 45-degree turn to the left. There's a hallway.